So how do our selections compare? When I did this activity, as I was making this lesson, this is what I picked. For the band, I picked the National Debt at $5,000. For the venue, I picked the Inn on the Hill at $1,500. And for the refreshments and decorations, I selected catered or fancy. And all of this adds up to $9,500, which means I am under budget, which is amazing. Okay, so let's look back and see what our options could have been. So I chose to go with the $5,000 band. I didn't want to do anything super cheap because a lot of people, I think, go to prom for the music and for the dancing. So I went with somewhere in the middle, pretty conservative, okay? Then in the second area with the places available, I went with the Inn on the Hill. And again, it's kind of the middle of the road place. We're not getting the fancy Valley Country Club, but we're also not going to have it in our school gym either. So something a little bit more in the middle I thought would be kind of good. And then, of course, being Mr. Ramstead, I went all out with the refreshments and decorations, and I got the $5,000 fancy catering, okay? Or the $3,000 catering, okay? So the reason I did that is because I like to eat food, and I think a lot of people in Staples Motley like to eat food and enjoy different snacks and refreshments at dances, and I would know firsthand because I'm always the one serving up pizza at the dances when we have them. So I thought it would be good to have some pretty tasty refreshments, okay? So that's kind of the logic I had when selecting my choices, and hopefully you followed a similar thought process when selecting yours, whether we agreed or disagreed or whatever, but you had to be under budget, and it probably was really tempting to max out that budget. And here I did $9,500, and that leaves me with only about $100 left remaining in my budget. And it's good to always leave a little bit, it's called a contingency, in case something were to happen, like an emergency or something burned down or some equipment broke and you had to repay it at the end of the prom or something like that. So it's always good to leave a little bit of buffer room, but it was so tempting for me just to edge up as close as I could to that $9,600. Okay, so I want you to reflect on these questions in your cheat sheet. What made this activity easy and what made it challenging? Do you think there are any right or wrong answers as long as you're in the budget? And how does this compare or apply to your own life? And lastly, what is an example of something in your life that is scarce, and how do you go about choosing how you use or allocate that resource? So what was scarce in this activity was the amount of money we had. And that's something that a lot of us probably face as high school students. I know for me personally, when I was in high school, I didn't have a job, so I had very little money, and I didn't really go out and do anything super fun with my friends or go to movies or anything because I didn't have much money, because that's just the way I rolled. I did focused on my school and a lot of volunteer activities that didn't give me much time to have a job, okay? So I want you to think on these questions, and I'm just more so curious as to what your thoughts are, and we'll talk about it in class or on Google Classroom a little bit, to see kind of how we compared. And it's okay to be wrong here. I want you to take a risk and try your best to answer these questions and really think through them. The nice part about my lecture videos being a little bit short is because most of the time in class, we would be doing discussions on these, and that would fill up the time. So instead of listening to me talk for 45 minutes a day for 3 days, I figured give you some time to reflect and think about it and apply it to your own life, because on your test, you're going to have to do that as well. So again, think through these questions, and we'll see you in the next video.